This is Robert Heights.
This is Kelly Broom.
Together, we are the
Wandering Colonel.
C-130 rolling down the strip. C-130 rolling down the strip. Airborne daddy gonna take a little trip. Airborne daddy gonna take a little trip.
So, I got a question for you.
I got an answer.
What aircraft made the first blow against the Japanese, major blow against the Japanese?
Like the mainland?
After Pearl Harbor.
Oh, that's
directly.
the B-25. I love the B-25. Did you know, B-25 Mitchell, there were, for years, people contacting my father asking what Lieutenant Height, what classified mission Lieutenant Height was involved in. Height's last name. He didn't have the S, we have the S. No relation, there was a Lieutenant Height on the Doolittle Raid.
Wasn't it a Robert Height?
It was a Robert Height.
It's your long lost cousin.
No, I've researched it, we're no relation.
Nah.
We still claim him though. None of those guys survive anymore. They've all passed away. And
well,
Lieutenant Robert Height, actually he wasn't a lieutenant then, he rose beyond lieutenant, but he was one of the last two surviving, I think.
They did their specialty training ashore.
Yep. With a specially marked runway. They marked it out to the exact dimensions of an aircraft carrier at the time.
Was it the Essex class carrier?
Okay, no. So it was, I think that was the Enterprise. It was a
Hornet.
Class.
So
yeah, it was the Hornet.
So it'd been the Enterprise class. Okay.
I don't know. Check it out. Fact check us. Put it in the chat.
Not a very big aircraft carrier by today's standards.
And the Mitchell is a fairly big plane to be taken off of a boat.
Yeah. Not designed for
they're called ships.
Yeah, not designed for that either.
You Navy boys, get in the chat, and gals, get in the chat. Call me out. Yeah, it's big enough to come out of the water. It's both. Not big enough to call a ship.
Oh, is that
Us Army dudes know a little bit. Did you know who operates the most floating or ships in the service?
That'd be the U.S. Army.
The U.S. Army. They have more than the Navy.
The Navy doesn't do logistics afloat.
And the next one. Bring it to me.
Who operates the most aircraft?
Oh, that would be the U.S. Army.
Somebody's got to do it right.
Who's conducted the most amphibious landings?
That would be the Army.
That would be the U.S. Army. But this is not about the U.S. Army.
Well, actually it is, because in World War II it was the U.S. Army Air Corps. There was no Air Force.
You get Army guys together, this is the risk you take. We should probably cut that and move to something else. No, so let's wander all over. I think there's in there a B-25 at Lackland. You know, we're all the time going to Lackland.
Lackland has probably the biggest collection of outdoor static displays.
They probably do.
Maybe right Patterson Air Force Base at the National Air.
But that's not technically, I mean, they are static display, but that's the whole purpose of that. That's like a museum. We're talking static displays.
Static displays, you can just walk up.
Right.
There's no...
We should do a Frago on static displays and talk about that. But not now.
Today,
we're talking about an iconic aircraft.
The B-25.
B-25 Billy Mitchell. Actually, it's not Billy Mitchell. I guess it's the B-25 Mitchell.
Let's wander on over.
All right. Ruck up. Lackland Air Force Base. So, two little quick facts about that is, if you join the Air Force, you're coming through Lackland.
Yeah.
Because that's where all their basic training happens.
This is the belly button for the Air Force.
Lackland Air Force Base. So, but there's a lot of static displays out here, so we like coming down here. It's located just outside of San Antonio, Texas, or it's kind of inside San Antonio, Texas, really, but not downtown. It's a good base. So we're here to talk about the B-25. Mr. Billy Mitchell.
Billy Mitchell is the namesake of the B-25. So, very storied career. First attack on the Japanese was carried out in B-25s. It was actually a joint effort. They loaded up a bunch of B-25s on an aircraft carrier.
USS Hornet, right?
I believe there was a Hornet.
Yep, USS Hornet.
And trained just to do that short takeoff. Put as much bomb weight as they could on board, but they couldn't put too much because they had a long haul to get to Japan.
Just enough fuel to get off the flat top, the hangar, or the aircraft carrier, get over Tokyo, drop their bombs, and just enough fuel to get on into China, where they were supposed to land and come home. best laid plans, right?
Well, somewhere very close to when they were going to release, they actually got spotted by a Japanese trawler. And then the Navy folks started picking up radio chatter. They opened fire and sunk the trawler, but they were concerned slightly that the Japanese had early warning, and they couldn't get any fighters aloft with a dozen or so B-25s on the deck.
Yeah, this filled the entire deck of the aircraft carrier. And you got to remember, back in the day, this is World War II. This is 1942, technically, right after front. And we didn't have the intelligence that we had these days, so they just weren't sure whether the task force had been reported or not. So, in abundance of caution,
so
they went ahead and took off.
They said, if you can't execute the mission, we're going to push your planes into the ocean. We're going to get our fighters up on deck and launch the fighters so we can protect the task force. Losing an aircraft carrier at that particular point in time would have been very bad. So,
well, catastrophic.
Colonel Doolittle said, okay, we'll go. So he was the lead aircraft, fired up his aircraft. Unfortunately, there was one Navy sailor who lost his arm to a spinning prop while they were getting ready to launch. But that was the only casualty during the launch phase. All of the B-25s got aloft off of an aircraft carrier. Now, you have to remember, there was no catapults. They turned into the wind. They spun up these radial engines. As fast as they could, and Doolittle had a technique for using the torque on the engines. Now remember, because they're twin engine, they're
counter-rotating.
So that helps throw you aloft. Took off. First one dropped down so far below the sight line, they actually thought he went in the drink, but then he came out on the far side and flew towards a little town called Tokyo. Not a friendly town at the time, and we made it less so. They actually had some American-Japanese friendship medals that the Japanese had given some of the members of the crew prior to World War II. They took their Japanese-American friendship medals and wired them to the stabilizers on the bomb and returned them to Tokyo on behalf of the friendly Americans who were flying overhead.
So it's not part of this episode, but if you are a student of history, the United States provided humanitarian relief to the Japanese people in the country of Japan much prior to World War II. And at the time, the country of Japan said, we will not forget, we absolutely appreciate, so on and so forth. And of course, as you might imagine, after the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, pulling the United States into the war, there was a lot of
It changed their mind on December 7th.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotions running high at that time. So that's where the medals, they attached them back to the bombs and sent them home.
So there are multiple variants of the B-25. This is actually configured as an attack aircraft. You can tell because it's got these blisters on the side. These are mock-ups of 50 caliber machine guns. So these aircraft did a lot of damage in the CBI, the China, Burma, India theater, attacking bridges, attacking Japanese logistics centers, flying close air support in order to attack Japanese airfields, destroy their aircraft on the ground, their fuel centers, their logistics centers where they prep their bombs for return fire.
How many of these machine guns are on this thing?
This bird is configured with 12 50 caliber machine guns. Now a 50 caliber bullet is large. It's about a 600 grain bullet, where a 9mm bullet is 115 grain. So that gives you an idea.
It's basically longer than my fist is wide.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to step in that hole.
Step in the hole. Come out of the hole.
Watch the hole. If you ever visit Lackland, come see the two B-25. Stay on the path, or at least avoid the hole.
So the other thing, these are not airtight aircraft. You can't really tell, but if you look in the back, and we'll get a picture of it, the side guns were open air. You see the World War II B-17 shots or footage. If you see one of these things actually flying, there's open air windows. The machine guns are on a pintle mount. They can swing left and right. and you eyeballed the target. There was not a lot of sighting. You eyeballed the target.
And the air crew were bundled up in almost looking like Eskimo gear. You've probably seen pictures because, again, they're at altitude. It's very, very cold. And so they had thick mittens on and flight jackets and so on and so forth.
Now these aircraft also did a mission that they called skip bombing, and that's mostly against naval targets. So what you're going to do is you come in low, very fast. A ship's on the horizon, so your ship's on the horizon, you're flying at it. You drop the bombs and they skip off the surface of the water, and then they hit into the side of a ship. Now when you hit when you hit the side of a ship, you blow a hole in it, it's going down. It's going to sink. Tremendously effective. It's very similar to when you see the British did the dam busters, where they spun bombs in reverse and they blew dams in the European theater. They used that skipping technique to get the bomb up close to the target, and so it would detonate right against where they wanted it to go. These are fairly small aircraft, once again, especially when you consider how big a modern aircraft is. A modern fighter, a two-seater fighter, is just barely smaller than this. So these had crews up to 8, could have a bigger crew. Most of the time it was 8, pilot, co-pilot, bombardier, waist gunners, tail gunner, and a top gunner.
There's a turret. There's a turret on top. I don't know if you can see it from the view for the top gunner. Pilot, co-pilot would sit just above me in this area here, and then your bombardier navigator would sit up front here and operate the machine guns there.
And the pilot could also toggle off for the blister mounted 50 cals here.
Bomb bay doors are down here, from here extending back to here.
Not a huge payload, but enough to get the job done. You're looking a lot more precision, not an area bomber. So it's not like the B-17s, B-24s that operated in Europe, where you're flying at altitude. The lead bombardier toggles off his rack, and when they see those bombs fall, everybody drops their bombs and you saturate an area. These were flying a lot lower, treetop level a lot of times. They had what are called retarded bombs.
They were stupid?
They were intelligently designed in order, it was retarded, you retarded their forward throw.
Retarded flight, yeah. The term refers to how
they slow down.
It slows the flight of the bomb, of the munition.
So it flared out so that you did not get hit in your aircraft by the blast of the bomb. You're flying so low, the bomb is leaving the aircraft and it's flying at the same speed you are. So if you are flying low enough, you're going to get hit in your own blast, which I believe is a bad thing.
Last I checked.
Yeah. So you do not want to get hit by your own blast. This would ruin your day.
Engine's a radial engine. We've talked about that before. It's not like in your car these days. These days we still have internal combustion engines, and they're either a V or an inline. I think we've talked about inline before in other fragos. This is a radial. It's the engine, the cylinders are arranged in a circle around the crankshaft. It's called a radial engine. Many times there'll be multiple rows when we get to some other aircraft types like the Super Fortress. There's multiple rows of the cylinders. And interestingly enough, with all of these radial engines, to crank them up, before you crank them up, as a crew, you'd have to get through and you'd have to rotate this propeller at least one time through, sometimes many times through, because the engine oil would leak down in to the crankcase, and if you just cranked it without doing that, the engine would get caught, the internal components would get caught in that oil, and they would bend the components and mess it up. So you had to rotate this through to get the oil circulated out and cleared before you could crank it up. We didn't talk about why is this called the Billy Mitchell?
So Billy Mitchell was a bad mother flower. He was a World War I era officer. He was a huge proponent of aerial bombing. He was convinced that you could sink naval ships using nothing but air power.
This is before air power was really a thing. World War I, They used aircraft primarily for strategic reconnaissance, but then they started having dogfights and such because the other side would bring up their own airplanes, of course.
And some bombing. There was bombing by Zeppelins and very limited bombing. The bombers were exceptionally slow and fairly easy to shoot down. So Billy Mitchell, between the wars, he said, hey, give me some bombers, I can sink ships. The Navy's response was, oh, no, you can't. And he said, oh, yes, I can. And they said, oh, no, you can't. So they rigged a testing event where they wouldn't allow him to drop a lot of tonnage. They would only allow him to drop so many bombs. And he said, sure, I'll play by your rules. And then he broke the rules. He put bigger bombs on and sunk the Navy ship, much to the chagrin of the Navy, which now had to answer up to how do we defend against air power. It's kind of the birth, and at the same time, once the Navy figured that out, that's when we start seeing the birth of aircraft carriers, because they started figuring out, hey, we either get these things on our side or all of our ships are going to be memorials to whatever fish is on the bottom of the sea.
But still, it was not embraced until World War II and the conflict in the Pacific validated the air power over surface fleet power. It was not embraced. Throughout all World War II, you still had this constant struggle,
the battleship.
Surface ship and the people that believed in the battleship, the leaders versus the aircraft carriers. But let's talk about it just a minute. Back to Billy Mitchell. We get off on sidetracks all the time. This was named after Billy Mitchell for a very specific reason. You heard what Kelly said. He had the test. He proved. Still, nobody believed him. He fought for this. He fought for strategic bombing campaigns to the point
he got court-martialed.
He was court-martialed. He was absolutely run out of the service and died in disgrace. He did not live to see his predictions come through, which is it's kind of sad, actually. That's why I love this aircraft. I love Billy Mitchell, because we still use that as a case study today to show people everything has its time, and even the best idea, until you get the right timing and the right situation, you could literally destroy your life trying to push for that idea, and it still might not take roots until it gets its right time.
You have to give credit. Billy Mitchell was an Army officer until 1947. Everybody who flew planes on land were Army.
Because the Air Force didn't exist, right? It was the Army Air Corps.
Army Air Corps or the Army Air Forces. So the Army Air Corps officers who were fans of Billy Mitchell kind of resurrected his name.
Yep.
And put his name on the aircraft. Really resurrected his reputation.
Yep.
And he was really proven out. This was Billy Mitchell was proven to be very
visionary,
prophetic.
Yeah.
He
was a visionary of his time.
His thoughts and his theories on air power were. Oh, I think this is the first Frago we've done. This has twin booms. The empennage. That's multisyllabic.
That is. Syllables.
That's hard to do. So as I was saying earlier, that you can kind of see where that machine gun is sticking out.
The gun
that
point?
would be open.
That whole black area would be open.
That whole black open is just basically a window. Here you have what I call twin booms, and he says
they're vertical stabilizers.
So
talking about this piece here, looks like a wing, but is stood up on end.
What's on a wing? It's off a wing.
It is off a wing.
It's off a wing, but it's standing up on its end.
That's called a horizontal stabilizer.
You weren't doing strategic bombing. You're not trying to level a city. You're trying to hit more specific, more pinpointing targets.
And we said before, World War II era aircraft.
Yeah, I think they were all out of the inventory. They had some trainers after the war that stayed in the inventory up until maybe 1960, but they were specifically just trainers. Other countries may have flown them, but Western European countries, more NATO-centric, more modern countries were not flying B-25s anytime after the late 50s.
Who built these? I don't even remember. Do we know?
I don't know. Boeing? It looks like a Boeing.
I don't know. Tell us in the chat function. Look it up. Who built the B-25 Mitchell? Let us know.
Thanks. And we're going to wander on.
We're wandering out.
Hope to get you all to like and subscribe, and please send your comments and any information that you think you'd like to have us share. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you as we wander.
Sounds good.